Larry Fink wants your money, and not just a little bit. He wants trillions of it. He has a shocking new plan for how the world works, and he's already traveling the globe, twisting args to make it happen. What he's really planning could be even worse than what we've already seen, and it directly affects your job, your savings, and your future. Stick around, because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the unbelievable secret behind his entire scheme and why it might fail. Larry Fink, the big boss at BlackRock, just dropped a bombshell article saying it's time for a second draft of globalization. He admits that the old way caused huge problems, like massive wealth inequality. He even warns that tariffs could crash the economy with price hikes and slow growth. Remember back in April when he and other Wall Street types were screaming about a recession? Yeah, they were also saying the stock market would crash by another 20%. But guess what? Stocks are hitting new record highs. He conveniently breezes past that in his article, saying the tariff effects were priced in. Look, that's the short-term noise. The long-term game is where things get really wild. Larry claims that economic nationalism, like those tariffs, isn't the cure for our global problems. Instead, he wants a blend of open markets with national goals. Sounds nice, right? Wrong. What he really wants is for giant money managers like BlackRock to easily move their cash and power all over the world. He says the problem with old globalization was that money just chased returns without helping people at home. Come on, that's a smokescreen. The real issue was sending jobs overseas to the cheapest places on earth to juice profits. His supposed fix for that? Channel your savings into local businesses and infrastructure. He promises locals would benefit. But here's the kicker. Many countries, including Canada, are already importing cheap labor to crush wages. So how are you supposed to benefit? This whole local thing is a setup, and it all starts with step one of his master plan, getting more people to become investors. Now, you might think, I'm already an investor, and you're probably right. About 60% of people in America are. So how do you get more? Larry points to Japan, where tax laws now push more people to invest for retirement. And who manages most retirement accounts? You guessed it, money managers, like BlackRock. This means BlackRock wants to take control of that capital and steer it wherever they want. In Europe, where people save a ton more than Americans but don't invest much, Larry blames that lack of unified capital markets. He's pushing for a savings and investment union over there, convinced it will funnel even more money into BlackRock's pockets. And here's the big secret about that union that's coming. It will likely auto-enroll working Europeans into pension funds by default. And who manages those pension funds? BlackRock. See how this is going? Here's where it gets truly unsettling. BlackRock is all in on creepy new technologies like digital IDs, which are being heavily pushed by governments. So what if that savings and investment union actually gets approved? It would allow them to quietly siphon your money and throw it at things like digital surveillance infrastructure and even militarizing Europe. The good news is, if they do approve this, it could ignite a massive speculative boom, especially if politicians funnel your savings into startups that could be insanely profitable for early birds. But Larry himself warns that unchecked financialization can fuel inequality. He doesn't want you, the regular investor, getting rich off these startups. He wants to control the game. His second draft of globalization looks suspiciously like the first, but with a twist. Instead of outsourcing your job, they're importing cheap labor right into your backyard. Why? Because labor costs are finally rising in places like China and India, where they used to send all our jobs. So why this insane focus on infrastructure development? Because governments and corporations are broke. They can't afford the $68 trillion BlackRock says is needed for global infrastructure. And where are they looking for that cash? At your savings. We're talking about over $25 trillion sitting in banks and money market funds in the U.S. alone. When Larry says we need more investors, he means you want to hand over your money to BlackRock so they can use it to fund their green agenda and global sustainability goals. This isn't some crazy theory, by the way. The CEO of Global Infrastructure Partners, which BlackRock just bought, openly stated that the top priority for these investments is the decarbonization of the global economy. They are literally in the process of privatizing the entire world's infrastructure, airports, ports, you name it. The EU wants to use this cash flow to militarize Europe and make everything green and digitally surveilled. It sounds like something out of a bad movie, but it's their actual plan. But here's the biggest problem for BlackRock, and the secret I promised at the beginning. Their whole scheme might actually fail. Why? Because those trillions of dollars they're eyeing aren't just sitting in low interest bank accounts. A huge chunk of it is tied up in something far safer: government bonds. Wealthy people love bonds because they're essentially the safest place to keep big money. You're guaranteed to get paid back. If that money starts moving out of bonds, bond yields will rise, and so will interest rates for everyone. And that creates a massive problem for BlackRock. Imagine if bonds are paying, say, 7% interest, and BlackRock wants you to invest in some speculative green energy startup with zero profits. What are you going to choose? You're going to stick with the safe bond, especially if it beats inflation. And here's another thing. Much of what BlackRock wants your money for are illiquid assets. Think bridges or massive power plants. These things take years, sometimes decades to build. Your money, it would be locked up for a ridiculously long time. After all the inflation we've seen, you know how important it is to have access to your cash when you need it. The fact that BlackRock wants to lock up your money for years in an uncertain world is their Achilles heel. This is why they have to push for things like auto-enrollment in pension funds. It's the only way to sneak your money out the back door. But let's say they pull it off. What does this mean for you right now? Well, it's already happening. Larry's been globe-trotting to get his plan installed. Countries are already tweaking rules to make people invest more or save less. And places like Italy are bringing in hundreds of thousands of low-wage laborers. This has two brutal effects. It crushes wages in industries where they should be rising, and it drives up prices, especially for housing. It's the same old globalization, but this time you get a front row seat to getting screwed. The only silver lining is for the massive corporations on the receiving end of all this cash and cheap labor. They're going to make a fortune. They'll get your forced investments plus huge government handouts. The free market? That's ancient history. Now the companies that win aren't the best ones. They're the ones with the deepest connections to BlackRock and powerful governments. You might hate their agenda, but as the saying goes, do you want to be right or do you want to make money? In this new world where you're fighting foreigners for jobs in your own town, you have to play by their rules. Work for the connected companies, invest in the radical ones. It's a harsh truth, but here's the final, ironic truth. This whole thing cannot last. If wages keep getting slammed while prices keep soaring, people will demand change. That change will either come at the ballot box or by force. And get this, corporations aren't short on cash either. They have trillions sitting on their balance sheets. In the end, they'll probably have to foot the bill for all this infrastructure development, and it will come in the form of higher wages for workers right here at home. This whole crazy plan is unsustainable. And by the way, it's not just infrastructure they want to control. They're coming for crypto, even Bitcoin. The world is changing fast, and your money is at the center of a massive power play. Understanding these hidden agendas is key to protecting yourself and your future. If you found this breakdown helpful, please smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We're constantly bringing you the unvarnished truth about what's really happening with your money. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.